Managing a small team or business comes with a unique set of challenges. With limited resources and manpower, it's easy for things to feel chaotic and out of your control. How can you, as a leader, accomplish your goals while keeping your team engaged, effective, and accountable? This podcast will give you practical strategies you can implement now to lead your team or business to reach its fullest potential. Welcome to the Organizing Chaos podcast with your host, Danny Coleman.
What's going on, guys? Thanks so much for tuning in to the Organizing Chaos podcast, where we talk about small practical strategies for small teams and small businesses. So today, to kick off the interview series for 2018, summer interview series, is my buddy and business partner, Brian Ellwood. Brian, thank you so much for coming on for today's episode.
Thanks for having me, man. Excited to be here.
Totally. So I want to give you, in case no one knows who you are already. So Brian was my boss at a previous business that we worked at, a real estate development company, for about 3.5 years. We started another company. I'll let him talk a little bit about that company, but Brian, kind of just give people like a brief rundown of your current business, and then we'll jump into today's topic.
My current business?
Yeah.
Currently what I do is educate other people on how to invest in real estate. I teach them how to, replace their income with passive income so they can get their time back. To do that, I've got a book, a podcast, an online course. I do one-on-one coaching. You are my right-hand man in that company, my integrator, COO, whatever you want to call it. And so aside from that company, I invest in rental properties. Got 2 or 3 dozen properties across Middle Tennessee. Basically buy them, fix them up, rent them out, rinse and repeat. And those are the 2 main businesses that I run today.
Right on. So, and as you mentioned, so I am, and I think I talked about this before on the podcast, but I am Brian's integrator. So, what we have is the visionary integrator dynamic. I was talked about in Rocket Fuel. I talk about it ad nauseum, I believe, but I don't think that I can talk about it enough. It's such an important book and had such an impact on my life and the way that I know how to place myself within businesses as well as how to consult. I recommend you guys check that out. So, Brian, I'd like to talk to you today about the differences between the 2 businesses that you've started. So, I know you came originally from you had a corporate job for a while. You knew that wasn't for you. And then you started the first company, the real estate development company that you hired me into eventually. And then now we have this new business. You have this new business. And I would like to talk a little bit about today, just what was it that you learned from your first business, those lessons that you took into starting this new one, and kind of just give me a little bit of, like, how does it feel being in this one and what you've learned versus, how was it before and things you did differently and stuff like that?
Sure, man. So one of the biggest things that is different between the 2 is something that you might not expect me to say, but I actually think it's the number one most important thing for small businesses to be successful. And before I tell you what it is, so when I started the first business, I was all about making money, right? I didn't want to work for anybody. I wanted to work for myself, make my own paycheck. And so I started going to the RIA meetings, found out about wholesaling and flipping and stuff like that. And basically just said, let's do this. Let's blow it up. I want to make a bunch of money and be my own boss. And that was really all there was to it. And we were able to do that and successfully blow it up and have a pretty big company. We did over 7 figures in revenue for a few years straight. So when we had up to 10 employees and all that stuff. So, on paper, it was a successful company. But, like deep down within me, I didn't really have any passion or any excitement for what we were doing. Right. I liked our internal culture and helping all of you guys grow and stuff like that. That was like my favorite part about it. But I didn't really feel like we were helping anyone or serving customers. I didn't really, like, our main product was like, we'll buy your house. I have no passion for buying people's houses. Okay. That is like nothing to do with that, like registers with who I am. So there was a big disconnect there. And then with the new company, like when our old company dissolved, I was able to get a fresh start. And Dan Sullivan has this great quote or something. I'd butcher it if I tried to even say it, but he basically says, like, anytime you get to start over in life, you only get to take forward into the next thing, the things that were serving you, the good things, and you can leave all the other stuff behind. So that's what I was able to do. And I sat down and said, what am I really excited about? What have I always really wanted to do? And it's really to teach and to educate other people. It's like what I can't stop doing. If we go get coffee, I'm just going to be blurting out advice to you 20 minutes into it. You're like, whoa, I thought we were just hanging out. Like I need to teach and help. Like, it's just in me to do that. And so the main difference is that the new company, the education company, is founded upon my passions for educating, teaching, coaching, creating content and stuff like that. And so it's like I always have a full tank of gas when I basically show up to work every day, where I was like running on fumes with the old business in terms of like drive, passion, motivation. And Steve Jobs has said, like, that's the most important thing for business, is that you need to do something that you really love, something that you would do anyways, even if you already had $100 million, because you're going to run into challenges either way. But you're only going to have the fortitude or whatever to get through those challenges if you are doing something you enjoy. If you don't and you run into challenges, you're just going to quit, because like, why do I do this anyways? I don't even like it, and it's hard. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'll stop there, because there's other differences, but that to me is the one biggest difference.
Yeah. So, and I want to go a little bit into that, because so I have a lot of friends who I talk to similar things about. Like I'll talk about like the idea of like doing what you're passionate about. And even when I consult with people, small business owners, I'll talk about like, help them figure out like what it is they're passionate about versus what it is they're doing. So I think a misconception is that you're supposed to know your passion first. Like, you have to know what your passion is. But I feel like what I've observed and kind of what I'm starting to realize myself is that you don't start out doing your passion. You start out doing a job. Even if you do create it for yourself and you're still the owner and the entrepreneur, you create a job for yourself, but it's usually out of that, maybe that first or second business that you have, that you then kind of can hopefully see the light. So can you talk a little bit about like how you went from that phase, where you created a job for yourself and you didn't feel bad about it, right? You liked it, at least at first. Maybe you were blinded to the fact that it wasn't your passion because it felt so good and it was working. But can you talk a little bit about that transition and how you felt along that path?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, is like, do you have to do some crap that you don't like first to find out your passion, and then you can switch to that? Or could you have done it right out of the gate, but you just don't realize the importance of founding it upon that until later? Like, I think it's probably the latter of the two. I think that I knew what my passion was to some degree even before the first business, because I had started like a health blog, and I was really all about writing articles and publishing and being all over all the stuff online. And I was going to blow that up really big before I even got into real estate at all. So I even like went to people's houses and taught them how to make green smoothies and stuff like, so like that, like part of me was there before I discovered it, like through the real estate stuff. Yeah, I think that one thing I want to speak to that I think is holding a lot of people back is that they know what their passion is. First of all, if you don't know what it is, go look at your bookshelf. What kind of books did you buy that you love to read? What topics are they on? What kind of things do you not shut up about when you're around your family and your friends, right? What kind of stuff do you geek out on? Those are some hints for things that you might be passionate about, okay? The stuff that you just can't stop talking about when you get real excited and they give you energy to talk about, okay? It can be video games or throwing frisbees. Like, there's no rules to what your passion has to be, okay? It doesn't have to be like finance or something that the world would accept. Okay. You could be anything. Once you know what it is, a lot of people, they think like, well, my passion is like playing basketball, Brian. So you're telling me I can go play for the NBA just because I want to? No, you can't. You're never going to make the NBA. Okay. Neither am I.
You're crushing people's dreams right now.
Right. But it's true, right? If they're, unless they're like 7 feet tall and a badass. But the point is that once you figure out what your passion is, whatever your best guess is at your passion in that moment, which you could find out later that it was something else, but you have to make your best guess based upon what you know now. And then you come up with a viable business model based around that industry. Mm-hmm. So if it was basketball and you can't play basketball, you could start a basketball podcast or a radio show where you interview basketball players all the time, and you release a publication, and you have a Facebook group, or you hold events that are basketball related. So you get to be like submersed in the culture of the thing that you love all the time. Right.
That's really good.
And it's a viable business model that you could make money and pay your bills on. So you have to think about what that is and put the two together.
That's really good. Did you just come up with a whole basketball thing, like off the top of your head?
I've used that analogy one other time, so I kind of pulled from that.
Okay, good. That is really, because I was just like, I do get a question like that from some people. Well, they're like, well, I really like this, but that's what I'm passionate about, but I can't go do that. And I'm like, you're right. But you make a good point that you're able to do this, right? So your first business was a job that worked for you. It at least gave you the opportunity to become an entrepreneur and to experience that life, right? Mm-hmm. Then you realize that, I hit the mic. You realize that wasn't your passion, and you were now cluing in more to what your passion is. So you moved into that. So what was kind of like, I guess kind of just to put a cap on that, what would your piece of advice be to someone who is currently operating a business that they don't hate? They like it good enough, but they're feeling drained, or, whatever. Is it to find your passion, or, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to get at is whatever it is they're currently doing, they may enjoy a lot, but how do you know whether or not like you're passionate about something or not? You know what I mean?
Well, people could be feeling drained for other reasons, of course, than the fact that they're not doing what they're passionate about. Like they could be a one-man show, like the classic visionary that's doing because you could start a business based around your passion, but if you're still like filling out spreadsheets and answering emails all day, that's not fun stuff for anybody, even if it's about basketball. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that, you asked, how do you know if you're passionate about something? It's a feeling. It's like, does something light you up? Does something give you energy? Is it exciting for you to talk about? Right. And it doesn't mean that like I show up to work every day and I'm like in the office, like, here we go, I'm so excited. I'm not like Tony Robbins. Like there's days where I'm like, I don't want to do anything. Even though the work is around my passion, I still want to just like screw around and do nothing because I'm tired. Yeah. I'm over it for a day. Yeah. Right. But then I bounce back strong. So yeah, it's just a feeling, man. You just gotta, like I said, they start to explore it. You can also ask your friends and family what they think you're passionate about. Because sometimes you're passionate about things, but it's like so close to you that you can't see it. It's like right under your nose. You ask your mom, they're like, oh yeah, all you ever talk about is like comic books or something, and like ever since you were a kid, you've been into that kind of stuff. You're like, oh yeah, she's right. You know what I mean? So, and if you are a small business owner that's listening to this and you're definitely doing something that you're not passionate about, unfortunately, my advice is you need to do something new. You need to throw the baby out with the bathwater or whatever. So, you need to you need to find a way to either make that business into something you're passionate about or just start completely over.
Yeah, that's good. So a lot of people are still relying on their business as their source of income. So for them to just like stop doing their business and move into their passion is just not feasible. So I think what's really cool, and you touched on this with your basketball example and made me think about it, is that we live in a world where you have the opportunity to gradually kind of make that transition if you are still reliant on your job or your business where you've created a job for yourself. You can rely, or you can continue to rely on that, but gradually start being a content creator and being or an educator.
Mm-hmm.
So like your basketball example, same with comic books. You can become a content creator on platforms like YouTube. You can spend time in forums. I had a buddy, Jake, my buddy Jake.
Yep.
Worked with us. He was a commenter, like a top commenter on like an MMA site, like because he was really into MMA.
Mm-hmm.
And having been a top commenter there, they eventually asked him to start creating content for them, and then he would get paid per article. And then additionally, then eventually he was actually hired on to be like their editor. They ultimately ended up selling the site to USA Today, but in the meantime, he got to spend a lot more time in his passion and had to spend less time at his regular job. So that's great. So that's a good real like tangible takeaway, is that if you created a business where you created a job for yourself and you're not passionate about it, you have a way out. And so you can either make a quicker switch like you did. You were able to do that because you had a rental portfolio that supplied you with income kind of during the transition from the first business to your new business. But even if you're a business owner and you're listening to this, you don't have that option, you can be more gradual about it and start monetizing your passion online, which is something you can do from anywhere. And it's, scalable basically just based on the time you have. So.
Yeah. And one thing I'll add to that real quick is like, if you were going to switch to your passion business from what you're doing now, and you're thinking like, I'm going to get a podcast, do Facebook, like that's the long-term game. So that the podcast is not just going to result in money.
Yeah.
Start that business with your back-end product. What are you going to sell? Like right when I transitioned to this education business, I started selling one-on-one high-ticket coaching to people. And that is one of the big things that fuels, this business. And then we're doing things like this podcast and building an email list and selling cheaper things and writing books to build a large audience that will then eventually spill over onto the whole thing, right? So if you wanted to immediately replace your income with something you're passionate about, just think of what's like the most expensive thing that you could sell that's going to help people the most. Like you went right to one-on-one consulting too, small business consulting. When our last business is off, you didn't go start, publishing YouTube videos. You went and sold something that was going to pay your bills, that required a lot more of your time.
Right.
But it was still based around your passions. It might not be the only thing you wanted to do. You wanted to create content and do all this other cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it paid your bills. So think about that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So that's a really good tangible takeaway, and I'm glad that we got that one. So I want to see if, and I originally wanted to shoot for 3, but we spent a lot of time on the first one, which is good. I think I got a lot out of that personally. I hope everybody else did. What's like, if you have a second, like a big takeaway from what either a lesson learned in business number 1 and that you've taken now to business number 2, like what might it be?
Man, I could probably come up with 4 or 5. So we'll have to do a follow-up episode because
Yeah.
I want to talk about, getting into digital marketing and publishing and having repeat customers and like all the things that, frustrated me about the former company.
Yeah.
But one of the big ones that you and I talk a lot about behind the scenes, and that has been a really big difference between business 1 and business 2, is that, I'm able to delegate and be the visionary for the company and have you as the integrator, and we work hand in hand to get results. I communicate the vision to you, you help me laminate that with reality, and then you effectively delegate everything to your assistants and everyone else that we have working for us. And so it's just, I get to really live in like my zone of genius, as they call it, where I get to focus on the things I'm good at, like being the face of the business, creating content, coaching people, and coming up with the direction for the company. And then I don't have to worry about anything else. Whereas in the first business, we had 2 CEOs like sharing the job, which I actually talked to a client the other day who's in that same boat, and it's not working for him either. So 2 CEOs, that's bad. And then we were trying to manage everybody, and we were not good managers, so we weren't checking on people's work or making them accountable for their systems and processes. We didn't give them ownership in the creation of much. We just kind of said, do this, do that. Why didn't you do it this way? You did it wrong. And this is it's just night and day. So did I explain that well enough?
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think maybe then what I'll ask, because I obviously am getting what you're saying, because I was in that with
right.
you. And then now we get to experience like the better version of that now. So what would you say is like one or maybe a handful of tangible takeaways as far as like, what could someone right now who is in a 2 CEO situation, like you mentioned a client that you have was, or if they are in a position where they are having to kind of still manage everybody directly, micromanage them to get the job done, what would your advice to them be, or some practical takeaways they can do?
So the first question, if someone's in a 2 CEO situation, I think you absolutely need to find a way to end that. It's hard advice to take, but it's just not a feasible model that you can scale. Show me one Fortune 500 company that has 2 CEOs sharing the job, right? It just doesn't work. You can get away with it in small businesses where you just have the owner of like a sandwich shop. It's like 2 guys and they sit there arguing all day. No, the lettuce is supposed to go over here. I think it should go over there, right? They can get away with that because there's not that much at stake.
Yeah.
But you can't like scale. You run into too many problems. There's too much confusion and time wasted between trying to get on the same page with each other. It's not that one or the other is wrong. It's just that there can only be one.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have 2 CEOs, you need to make one of them like a passive just shareholder of the company, or make one of them an employee that's under the other CEO. And they have to be okay with that, which is hard and not always possible, but that's the reality.
And they can still both be owners.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being an owner of a company and then filling a position within the company that has to be executed. If you happen to be an owner, that's an owner, but also filling the position within the company, well, realize that no matter where you're at as a person within that company, you're still the owner. You just need to make sure that you're executing the position in a way that is efficient and helpful for everyone else.
Yeah, you think about like all the sharks on Shark Tank, they own portions of hundreds of businesses.
Right.
They're owners, but they don't work in those businesses. They're passive absentee owners, or whatever you call it. So maybe that's something you and your business partner come up with that would make more sense. But then let's say that's not an issue. You're a one man or woman show. The key is to let other people help you build the business together. You have to enter co-creation mode instead of you decide everything and you hand out orders. It's harder for you. It takes more work, more of your time. It's less satisfying for you and way less satisfying for people that work for you. They feel like they're just, like in the army, basically, just like taking orders all day. And they don't have buy-in. This from working with me in both businesses, because I've been able to make the shift, and I used to do it, to you as well. And that's something that, it takes practice to let go. We said in the interview with you on my show, you got to let go to grow.
Yeah.
And it's really true. No matter how much of a rock star you are as a one-person show, you're going to hit a ceiling where you can't do anything else. You don't have any more time or energy. And that's where you stop. And so you have to learn to get results through other people and how to effectively delegate, manage other people, but give them as much decision-making power as you can. There's a saying, I can't remember where I heard it. It was some entrepreneur coach. He said, any decision in your business that can be made by somebody other than you should be, basically. So if someone else is capable of deciding on something, let them decide. Don't jump in. People send me messages still in our company. What's your opinion on this, Brian? Do you think? And I'm like, I shouldn't say anything at all, because I'm just training them to come to me for my opinion on it.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good. You're training them to come to you. I'd not even.
Yeah, exactly. Making them weak instead of strong. They need to decide things on their own. That's the only way a business owner could go on vacation, relax, and be like, I know the business is going to be fine while I'm gone. because the business owners are better at running the business than the employees are better at running it than the owners sometimes.
Yeah.
If they've been allowed to build up that muscle.
That's exactly it. Build up the muscle.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Those were, I think, two huge takeaways. It's if you're feeling drained or if you're feeling like you're not enjoying the job that you created for yourself as an entrepreneur, come to grips with the fact, or come to terms with the fact that it's not your passion, and start to discover what that is, and either gradually move there or make the switch as fast as you're able to. And secondly, delegate. Work on delegating and co-creating. I like to use that, co-creating with other people, so that you can stay where you're best at, say in that zone, and build up people, train people to be self-sufficient, people who can run without your direct, micromanagement and supervision. So awesome. Well, thanks so much again for having us on the show. Can you tell, having you being on my show, can you tell me or tell the audience, Brian, where can people find out more about you and, get in touch with you?
Yeah, you could check out our website, our blog at brianellwood.net with 2 L's. You can look me up in iTunes, the Virtual Real Estate Investing Podcast. If you are interested in real estate investing, I teach a free weekly live web class. You can register for that at virtualinvestingclass.com. And just reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And thank you everybody for listening in. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, all that fancy jazz, please leave it in the comment section, whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube. And if you have any kind of topic ideas, I would love to hear them. Or if you want to be on the show, if you have anything that you want to share with other small business owners, multi-managers, come on my show and let's talk about it. So thanks again, Brian, for being on. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you all later.
Want more? Go to DannyColeman.me to download Danny's free small business hiring guide, which includes tips, templates, and tools, plus a step-by-step process you can use to find and keep high-quality employees for your small team or business.